Hi, I'm Chris Sangster, and welcome back to the studio. Have you ever wondered why the pan knobs in Logic Pro only go to plus 63 and minus 64, while in other DAWs they go to 100? The answer is that it's a holdover from the days when everything in the digital audio world was controlled by MIDI. The standard MIDI protocol that was developed in the early 1980s, and that we still use to this day, contains 128 values. This can transmit the data to control just about anything you associate with a standard synthesizer. Sounds, notes, velocity, pitch, and of course pan. And MIDI denotes these 128 values as 0 through 127. So 0 is a quantifiable digit in this system. This is also why the loudest velocity setting for MIDI instruments in Logic Pro is 127. As it relates to pan, Logic splits those 128 values in half and uses the 0 value for dead center. Therefore, we get 64 values to the left, minus 64, 1 value as dead center, 0, and the remaining 63 values to the right. So if you think of the pan knob as a pie, and each of the pan positions as a slice of that pie, it means that the slices on the right side are slightly larger than the slices on the left side. This means that to evenly position a signal left and right, you have to offset the value of the pan by 1. Let me show you how this looks using a simple sine wave from the test oscillator. I will use both a VU meter calibrated so that 0 dB matches the output level of the test oscillator, as well as Logic's peak level meter. With the pan knob set up the middle, you will see that we have a reading of 0 on both sides of the VU meter and a peak of -8 on the level meter. If I pan all the way to the left, minus 64, the left side stays at 0 and the right side drops all the way down to silence. If I pan all the way right to plus 63, it's just the opposite. And this offset holds true for any other pan position. For example, if I pan to -47 left, the VU meter on the right side is precisely at -10. To get the exact inverse of this reading, I have to set the pan to plus 46 right. Same if I aim for -5 on the VU meter and -13 on the level meter. We have to set the left side to -33, and for the inverse, the right side to, you get the picture, plus 32. Now, I've seen a lot of complaining on the internet about this perceived flaw of Logic Pro, and seen it specifically cited as an example of why Pro Tools or insert other DAW here is superior. Let me tell you why this is simply not true. For starters, the signals that you are panning in your productions and mixes are far more complex than a simple sine wave, and therefore you cannot pan them in this simple by the numbers manner. At the end of the day, panning is subjective. It is source and room dependent. Take these two guitar tracks, for example. If I pan them directly opposite each other, -23 on the left side and plus 22 on the right, it doesn't sound balanced to my ear. One is distorted, one is clean, one is more compressed than the other. The EQing is different, the level is different. All of these things will impact your perception of their balance in the stereo field. After panning them by ear, I ended up with a setting of -20 on the left and plus 17 on the right in order for them to sound balanced to my ear. Bottom line, you have to pan with your ears, not with the numbers. Now, I've also heard that it is too limiting to only have 128 possible pan positions, while Pro Tools gives you 201, for example. Well, I would argue that 128 is more than plenty to place your tracks in the stereo field. I'll give my fellow engineers the benefit of the doubt. But here's why it doesn't matter. The gain plugin. If you use the gain plugin in mono to stereo or stereo mode, it splits the pan into, wait for it, plus 100 and minus 100, just like Pro Tools. In fact, in the gain tool, you can move the pan in increments of 0.5, so it's actually double the amount of values that Pro Tools has. So if you want further refinement over your panning, just use the gain plugin. I should note here that I have been talking exclusively in this video about mono balance panning, but Logic actually has another pan mode, stereo pan. You access this by right-clicking on the pan knob on a stereo track and changing from balance to stereo pan. This changes the way the panning of a stereo track is achieved. In balance mode, when you pan all the way left, you are just muting the right channel, and all you hear is the left channel coming out of the left speaker. In stereo pan mode, when you pan all the way left, you are summing the left and right channels together, and they are both playing out of the left speaker. You can hear proof of this concept in this short example. This audio file has the bass panned all the way to the left and the drums panned all the way right. When I use balance pan mode and pan hard left, the drums disappear. But when I use stereo pan mode and pan hard left, both the drums and the bass are playing out of the left speaker. You can also use stereo pan mode to bring the signals closer together by clicking just below the pan knob and dragging up. Now that's a very useful feature, but how does it play into my theory that Logic's panning numbers are not inferior? Well, for starters, in stereo pan mode, Logic actually automatically compensates for that one value offset between the sides. It does this by making -63 hard pan left to match +63 hard pan right. Check it out in this example. No signal on the right side when the pan is set to -63 or to -64. Also, you'll see that -40 reads at -5 on the right VU meter, and the opposite of that, +40, is the inverse, -5 on the left VU meter. So when working with stereo panning, there is no need to even discuss the offset because it is just not there. But maybe you still feel like those 127 values for stereo panning aren't enough. Okay, let me present to you the direction mixer. This stock plugin splits the stereo spectrum into degrees using increments of 0.5 degree. 90 degrees on either side represents standard hard panning. That means you have a total of 360 pan values. But that's just half of the possibilities with this plugin, because it allows you to continue pushing the signal around the circle, with 180 degrees being a complete swap of the left and right signals. Check out what happens to our bass and drums example as I push around the circle to the right. They start with the bass in the left and the drums in the right, and at 90 degrees, they are both only in the right speaker. Now as I push towards 180, you can hear them start to switch places. Now the bass is in the right speaker and the drums are in the left speaker. I will admit it takes a bit of time to get used to the way Logic presents its panning options and its panning workflow, especially if you are used to working in another DAW like Pro Tools. But that does not mean it is less capable. It is just as powerful of a tool as any other DAW. And a final thought, why does Logic continue to use this antiquated value set anyway? Logic's pan is not being directly controlled by MIDI anymore, so why not just change it to 100? Well, I'm not on the design team at Apple, but I have a theory. I believe that Logic wants to be able to seamlessly integrate with MIDI devices of all types, so it keeps its pan settings in a format that all other MIDI devices can recognize. That takes the burden of converting the data off of your computer or MIDI driver and allows for a more plug-and-play environment in which to work in. I hope you found this peek behind the pan curtain of Logic Pro interesting. If you have any thoughts or questions, please leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you at the studio next time. Thanks.